Fred. Good seeing you, man.
Good to see you too.
All right, man. Well, you're on top of the world right now. Last time I saw you, we talked about this. You have this incredible film here. You have Nickel Boys, Craven the Hunter still to come. Delma is a beloved indie film from this year. Dude, you're busy, man, and we'd love to see it.
Thank you. I always say it's funny because they were made so many years apart, some of them, but they've come out, in a few months next to each other. So it looks like I have a clone or something running around, but I swear it was just made over the course of a few years.
Nah, man. Hey, listen, talent rises to the top, and you're working also with many people at the top here. First and foremost, I gotta ask, you're working opposite the great Denzel in a couple of scenes. Were there any takeaways from your time working with him that you'll carry on with you to future projects? Because that man's got to just be a wealth of knowledge, I imagine.
Truly. I feel like it's 4D chess every day with him. The way in which um, he inhabits a space and becomes a character is so deep but so effortless at the same time. Um, the experience of working with him is one I will treasure forever. I just loved every scene with him, truly.
Yeah.
I feel like I heard this once about great acting. It's in the moment of the moment of the moment, right? It's so
Mhm.
present, so there, and Denzel is one of the greatest examples of that. He's so present to every. No choice is wasted or lost. Nothing is missed by him, and I just really I feel like I learned so much from that process, that kind of play together.
Now you're based on, well, actually, no, you're playing Emperor Caracalla, who was a real Roman emperor. But I have to imagine there's got to be a ton of liberties that were taken here, but maybe not in some cases. Can you just tell me a little bit about how much runway Ridley Scott gave you and Joseph to come up with these characters?
I mean, I look at everything so especially in the preparation period, I try and open that aperture as wide as possible and let all the research in and gradually figure out what's going to be most inspiring and relevant to serve this story. So, in terms of Caracalla, the research of the time was vital and is a major part of the script. But I must also add, I talked with Ridley pretty early about very different influences like Sid Vicious and Johnny Rotten. Like
Yeah.
his sense of cinema is trying to create it so that it feels, even if you're telling a story from the past, it should feel as alive and vital as anything happening right now, right? You speak to the moment through that time period. So
Mhm.
our influences ranged up until now. I said this in other interviews, but we even talked about Beavis and Butthead, of which Ridley is a fan. So that also
Yeah.
characters as well.
Really, also is just such a no BS type of director, and I love that about him. At 86 years old, he's making movies on a scale that is unlike anyone else out there today. Can you tell me a little bit about maybe an onset moment where you experienced that firsthand, that no BS, just get it done mentality?
Rome is built in the 360 here. So
Yeah,
ever you look, the convincing environment is around you. He sometimes would say to us, I'm going to create the greatest off-camera action you've ever seen. And it's true. You're doing a scene watching the Colosseum fights, and they still have rhinos charging and fighting one another. That everything is happening kind of at all times. He moves really ferociously, really fast, um, and with full commitment.
yeah. So you have a pet monkey in this movie. All hail Dondas.
Thank you
We all
very much.
must serve. Uh, did your experience working with this monkey, like, I mean, I have so many questions here, but
Yeah.
did this make you want to maybe one day adopt a monkey? Did this give you a newfound appreciation for monkeys? Like, what was the experience like?
I would say I feel I had a great deal of respect for monkeys before this production, but working with Sherry, who plays Dondis, only added in my admiration. for monkeys. She's incredible, and it's wild. Like I spent a few weeks beforehand training with her so that we would get comfortable with one another. So Paul is doing his fight training, and I'm doing my monkey training, and then we all get in the Coliseum, and you bring that energy into it. Like we tried to learn how to feel safe with each other so that we could almost move as one unit. She's
Hmm.
always on my shoulder or in my hair, and you get used to the way we move. I got used to her and she got used to me. So it's so fun. And it's one of the wildest things about this job. It's like you end up learning things like this.
How many takes does she require, or is she just always hitting her mark?
It's so fun. Connie said something today at the press conference where she went, usually it's like two takes with Ridley. When there's an animal, you might get three for the animal.
Yeah, yeah. Your character has some really, really exuberant costumes and the makeup that's applied to you as well. Can you tell me a bit about how all of that just helps with finding the character and stepping into, as you said before, the ancient time period of ancient Rome here?
Well, Jean-T Yates, who's the costume designer on the first Gladiator, and has done tons of films with Ridley in between that one and this one, is just a genius. I mean, she's an incredible craftsperson. And her sense of character and her attention to detail to the time is really precise. So when we met and started talking about him, I feel that we both gravitated towards excess. I kind of think of him as rotting gold. Yeah, it's where all this money goes to die, basically. Um, and when it came to say the rings, we started put him on six fingers, seven, eight. I remember looking at her eye contact and just being like, I think this is a 10 finger ring kind of guy. Rings on every single finger. That we kept notching it up, checking if like, is it gonna break? Is this gonna be too much? And honestly, pushing to those limits always felt right.
Yeah. I remember when I first saw Gladiator back for the first time. I wasn't allowed to see it in the theaters. Parents shielded me from that. But I remember I wore out that DVD so much. It's been now 24 years since the release of the first film. Can you tell me about your first experience watching that and when you got the call to be a part of the sequel that, quite frankly, a lot of us thought would never see the light of day? What was your reaction then?
I was in a car. I was driving in LA where I don't live, and my phone was, connected to the car, picked up through the thing, my agent's call, and she told me the opportunity in the news, and I literally had to like park the car and sit before I could even respond. I was like, whoa, 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 hold on. And I stayed in that parked car for like 20 minutes after because it just rocked my world. I could not
Yeah.
believe um this opportunity. Uh, I will say to the earlier part of your question as well, there are sequences in this film, battles and fights, that Ridley has been thinking about for over 20 years, that he tried to get into the first one. The baboon fight, which is one of my favorite parts of the whole movie, he thought was going to be in Gladiator 1 and they didn't have the time and the budget. So he's literally been tinkering at it, thinking about it, so that by the time that we went and filmed it, he knew everything about that battle and needed to make that. I think you feel that history and that love in the frames.
I think so too. Definitely. I think anyone that has a nostalgic feeling for the first film is going to feel transported all over again. And your performance in this as well. I'm curious to know if and when maybe you get a call from Joaquin Phoenix or just giving you a little pat on the back or something, because you and Joseph, I think, took what he did in the first and just amped it up so much to make it so twisted and sick and fun. Everyone in the cast just looks like they had a blast making this project.
I think even though it was terrifying, um, the way that the set is set up, the way that Ridley paints the entire universe for you was also very freeing as an actor. I think it meant that everybody felt like they had to inhabit the space. You know, he built us
Yeah.
the biggest playground.
Yeah. And you guys are definitely having a ton of fun in that playground for sure. Fred, thank you so much for the time here, man. Thank you so much for all the work you've been doing and all the work that's still yet to come. Man, I wish you the best.
You, Matt. Thank you for all your thoughts and questions, and thanks for shouting out Nickel Boys as well. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man. Take care.